CEO discovers incredible truth. Janitor's hidden life, caring for sick son in hospital exposed. Jack Thompson never had time for distractions. As the CEO of one of San Francisco's most innovative tech companies, his days were a blur of meetings, product launches, and relentless strategizing. He thrived on the adrenaline of corporate politics, maneuvering through the cutthroat landscape of Silicon Valley, where only the sharpest minds survived. Yet, amid his meticulously curated life of sleek offices and luxury cars, he often overlooked those he deemed unimportant, including Sam, the janitor who tirelessly cleaned the very halls where Jack felt most powerful. One stark evening, urgency pulled Jack away from his thriving empire. His mother's health had taken a turn, and he found himself wandering the sterile, fluorescent-lit corridors of the hospital. It was far different from his world of boardrooms and tech summits. A sense of unease settled in as he navigated this unfamiliar landscape, a jarring contrast to his polished life. Here, he faced not contracts and deals, but the fragility of life itself. As he moved past the waiting room, he spotted Sam, sweeping the floor with an intensity that suggested the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. There was a look of quiet despair etched across his face, as if he was wrestling with struggles far greater than what the polished floors reflected. The sight halted Jack momentarily, a flash of recognition sparking within him. He approached, curiosity mingling with an unsettling sense of guilt. "Hey, you're the guy from the office, right?" Sam acknowledged, pausing his work for just a beat. Jack nodded, fumbling for words. I've seen you around." A silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken realities. Sam's shoulders slumped slightly, and Jack's mind raced. Why had he never noticed the sacrifices this man made? He watched as Sam collected himself, picking up where he left off, all while Jack felt like an intruder in this vulnerable space. Their conversation unfolded slowly, and Jack learned about Sam's son, gravely ill, fighting for his life in the pediatric ward upstairs. Jack's chest tightened as he absorbed this revelation. Here stood a man balancing a demanding job with a father's desperate love, and suddenly Jack's own life, a series of meetings and product pitches, seemed painfully trivial. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Jack returned to the hospital the following days, compelled to support Sam, yet confused by the complex emotions swirling inside him. Empathy battled with his ingrained ambition, making his mission out of focus. The realization that this janitor lived under the harsh burden of responsibility began to chip away at Jack's facade of control. The tension swelled as he recognized the inequities that had once felt abstract, now brutally personal. Yet in board meetings, when he pondered changes that could improve lives, louder voices drowned him out, voices that valued profit over people. Jack felt the familiar gears of corporate ambition grinding against a burgeoning consciousness, and the impending clash gnawed at him. He watched Sam work, the steadfast devotion illuminated in the janitor's weary eyes. It felt like a call he couldn't ignore. Should he choose the path of convenience or risk everything for ethics? As Jack stood at this precipice of decision, turmoil enveloped him. Doubt laden in his breathing, he felt the strings of his ambition taut against a new understanding. What was true success, anyway? The rich veneer of wealth and power felt hollow compared to the heartache Sam battled every day. With each step he took to align his life with Sam's struggles, the stakes rose, drawing him deeper into a maelstrom of conflicting loyalties. Would he finally break the cycle of selfish ambition for something that truly mattered, or would he retreat back into the gilded cage of his own success? The answer remained tantalizingly out of reach, pulling him towards a reckoning that would change everything. Jack couldn't shake off the heaviness he felt after his encounters with Sam. The stark contrast between their lives sat uneasily in him, twisting and turning like a restless storm. In meetings, his usual sharpness faltered. He found himself distracted by the image of Sam's weary face, the persistent echo of his worries lingering in the back of his mind. Each report he reviewed, every market analysis he scrutinized, felt increasingly disconnected from the reality of the human struggle that Sam bore daily. As the week progressed, Jack made the decision to dig deeper. He couldn't merely be an observer in Sam's life, he needed to learn. Each afternoon, instead of retreating to his penthouse office, he drove to the hospital, repositioning his focus from stakeholders to the human beings in the system. He knew that conversations with corporate giants and venture capitalists would not quell his newfound hunger for deeper understanding. One afternoon, he found Sam on a slightly quieter shift. His broom paused as he absent-mindedly scanned the floor. Jack approached him, careful not to disrupt the fragile peace of the moment. "How's your son doing?" he asked gently, aware of the intimate heaviness behind those words. Sam's eyes flickered, almost a flame of vulnerability dancing briefly in his gaze. "He's hanging in, but these days—" "Well, every minute counts," he replied steadily, but Jack noticed the tremor in his voice. Jack felt a rush of empathy surge through him. "What can I do to help?" The question escaped his lips before he could filter it against the backdrop of his corporate lingo or self-interest. It felt raw, unrefined, but genuine. Sam's shoulders tensed. He seemed taken aback. "Thank you for saying that, but what can you really do? This isn't a business deal." The challenge resonated with Jack. He realized that he was far from his concrete world of strategy and profit margins. This was personal, unguarded, and completely out of his element. "Maybe I can help with the medical bills, or—" he faltered. No longer sure what his role was, the corporate solutions felt inadequate against the starkness of the hospital's reality. As the days passed, Jack wrestled with the growing inspiration to facilitate change that was more than fleeting sympathy. His mind raced, planning ways to channel the resources of his company into something meaningful. What if his team could build an app to provide support for families in similar situations? A platform where resources, emotional support, and information could coalesce? The thought ignited a spark in him. Perhaps this was not an escape from his ambitions, but rather a new direction that aligned more closely with who he wanted to become. That idea festered in the back of his mind. The lure of melding tech with something inherently human swelled within him, but he was aware of the corporate culture that surrounded him, a culture driven by numbers, profits, and expansion. They would resist, push back against any deviation from the status quo. Was he prepared for that battle? Determined, he approached his close advisor, Lisa, with the concept. He framed it as potential philanthropic engagement, a way to position the company as a leader in social responsibility. But the moment he unveiled Sam's story, he saw the unease wash over her. "Jack, while I admire your intent, this is a slippery slope. It could distract from our key focus areas, lose investor confidence," she cautioned, the sharpness in her tone familiar. Tension crackled as he realized that this moment was about more than business. It was a personal reckoning. Was he strong enough to face not just the broken system, but his own peers as well? The clock ticked unrelentingly, amplifying the urgency of his decision. Jack leaned forward, heart racing. "But isn't it worth the risk? What if we could make a real difference?" As the words left him, he felt the weight of the choice hang in the air. The moment stood steeped in gravity, with the pressure of his ambition compressed against an unyielding truth. Would he dare to step away from profit for purpose? And what would that even mean for his career? The conflict hardened within him, knowing that the next step he took could redefine not just his role as a CEO, but as a human being. But then, as his resolve began to crystallize, a sudden and unexpected call from the hospital shattered his thoughts. The nurse's voice echoed in his mind, bringing a new wave of urgency with it. "You need to come. It's about Sam's son." Jack's instinct kicked in, a silent vow igniting within him. He would not only step outside the gilded cage of corporate ambition, he would leap into the unknown. The time for his true test had come, thrusting him toward an uncertain future. The smell of antiseptics hit Jack as he rushed through the hospital's sliding doors, his mind racing with chaotic thoughts. Sam's son was in critical condition, the nurse had stressed. Each footstep echoed in the sterile corridor, while Jack's heart pounded against his chest, a relentless percussion urging him forward. During the brief moments it took to navigate the winding hallways, clarity amid his turmoil slowly emerged. He couldn't just throw money at the situation. That wouldn't remedy anything. He needed to be present, to truly engage beyond mere financial support. The weight of his corporate background clashed with the immediacy of human experience, pulling at his very core. As he reached the pediatric floor, he spotted Sam just outside of his son's room, the man visibly drained, leaning against the wall with a hand over his brow. Jack felt a twinge of guilt upon seeing the distress that etched Sam's features, lines deepening under the strain of worry and sleepless nights. "Sam," Jack called softly, drawing closer. The janitor looked up, startled, and for a fleeting moment their eyes locked in shared desperation. "Jack, I didn't expect you," Sam replied, his voice strained yet hinting at a welcoming crack. "I came as soon as I got the call. How is he?" Jack asked, the question hanging suffocatingly in the air. Sam shook his head slowly, his lips pressed in a grim line. "They're trying everything they can. But—" The words trailed off into a silence thick with despair. Jack felt a surge of resolve. All the talk of innovation faded. This was where action began, now, in the face of crisis. "I want to be here for you, whatever it means. Let's focus on your son right now." A flicker of gratitude crossed Sam's expression, albeit buried under layers of stress. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without." Jack interrupted the sentiment before it could solidify. "No need to thank me. Let's work together." They shared a look that transcended their varied backgrounds, corporate mogul and hospital janitor, both men bound by the love of a child suddenly in jeopardy. Jack had intentions swirling in his mind, not solely about developing an app or lifting burdens with financial resources. He was laying the groundwork for a partnership grounded in mutual respect and solidarity. As the tense moments crawled by, Jack took the opportunity to ask deeper questions. "What do you wish you had right now? Resources, contacts, emotional support?" Sam mulled over the questions, his brow furrowing. "I need to keep my focus on the doctors and the care, so—" His voice trailed once again, grappling to articulate the immensity of his struggle. "Right," Jack said. "So perhaps I can help navigate that side. I have connections, even with our healthcare partners." The words felt foreign coming from him, but beneath them was the flicker of his revelation. He was not just a CEO. He could be a conduit for substantial change. The idea grew in his mind. If he could align his abilities with Sam's needs, maybe, just maybe, they could fashion a solution that assisted not just Sam, but families to come. Could they create a network that connected struggling parents with resources, emotional support, and clear pathways toward assistance? Just as Jack's thoughts began to formulate plans, the door to the room creaked open, a doctor's head popping through, the tension observable in her countenance. "Mr. Thompson, may we speak?" Jack felt the weight return, heavy and suffocating. He exchanged a quick glance with Sam, The unspoken question held in the tightness of their expressions. What would this mean for them? What new challenge would be unveiled in this moment of uncertainty? He stepped forward, ready to confront whatever came next, knowing that even if it all fell apart, it would be worth pursuing this path of heightening awareness and potential change. The revelations danced at the edges of his thoughts, keeping him on guard. He could not merely act as a benefactor. He needed to dive deeper. A real transformation awaited him, but it also beckoned him to confront the realities of what it would require. Everything hinged on this meeting. What would it reveal, not just for Sam, but for the future Jack envisioned for himself, entangled now in this compelling human situation? "Let's see what she has to say," Jack said, even as his mind whirled with anticipation. What new truths would surface, and how would they shape the direction of his journey ahead? The doctor stepped into view, her professional exterior barely masking the urgency that colored her voice. "Mr. Thompson, can we discuss your son?" Her gaze flickered between Jack and Sam, gauging the tension hanging thick in the air. Jack felt the swell of compassion, strangely fused with an underlying sense of dread. "Of course," Sam replied, straightening himself, preparing to absorb whatever news came next. Jack positioned himself beside Sam, aware that his presence was not merely about offering support, it signified a tangible commitment to engage fully with the unfolding crisis. The door clicked shut behind them, amplifying the isolation of the corridor. In that moment, it struck Jack how life had morphed into a series of decisions steeped in uncertainty. It wasn't just about the outcome for Sam's son, but about how that echoed through the decisions he made moving forward. The doctor began outlining the prognosis, but Jack found his focus drifting. Each medical term was a reminder of his own inadequacies. He could analyze market trends, streamline operations, but here, in this room, his business acumen felt out of place. As the conversation meandered through protocols and options, Jack tuned in just enough to catch phrases like intensive care and emergency procedures. The doctor was poised yet earnest, a lifeline amidst chaos. Sam's face flickered through a kaleidoscope of emotions. He would nod occasionally, but each word felt heavy, compounding his burdens. "Is there anything we can do?" Jack found himself asking, almost instinctively. A voice of action amid the tidal wave of inaction. The doctor paused. "In a way, yes. Parents helping one another, sharing inside knowledge, can make a profound difference while navigating this path." Sam turned, his eyes widening as though awakening from a trance. "But how?" "Support can come in many forms," she continued, her gaze steadying them as if challenging Jack to pursue this line of thought. "Sharing experiences can alleviate the crushing weight of guilt and despair. Many parents don't know where to turn." The possibilities unfolded before him like an uncharted map. Jack felt invigorated, his corporate instincts igniting with purpose. This wasn't just about Sam and his son. It could expand into something larger, a support network that could leverage technology and foster community among parents in similar situations, an app that connected them all, creating pathways to critical resources, relevant advice, and shared experiences. "What if we could centralize that information?" he asked, not quite believing the words he was pitching. "A platform where parents can not only receive support, but provide it too?" The doctor's gaze sharpened, intrigued. That kind of initiative would require a lot of groundwork, but it's certainly feasible with the right resources. Jack's mind was racing, mapping out concrete steps and potential pitfalls in the shadows of his consciousness. This wasn't just a project, it was a lifeline for families trapped in grief and uncertainty. We could curate support groups, offer live chats, maybe even fundraise directly through the platform for families in need. Sam looked at Jack, disbelief mixed with hope. "Do you really think that can work?" "I believe it can," Jack said firmly, his determination solidifying. In this space of desperation, with a child's life hanging in the balance, he found clarity, revealing a version of himself he hadn't truly known existed until now. Yet, the impulse to dive in head first battled with the cautious side of him, a side dictating that without a proper plan, he could risk not only his credibility but Sam's fragile hope. All decisions from here would require measured steps, which felt like walking on a tightrope suspended over an abyss. "What's needed first?" Jack asked, redirecting the focus. His instinct to strategize reignited. Initial talks with a few hospitals, maybe outreach programs for parent support, the doctor began, details spilling forth that felt electric. Each revelation was another stone laid on a new path. Yet, as they discussed possible next steps, Jack's mind couldn't shake the weight of the confrontation with his own commitment. It was a profound turning point that demanded he step past the safe confines of corporate roles into the unpredictable realm of personal engagement. "Let's get started on this tomorrow," he found himself saying, heart racing at the implications of that agreement. Confronting his own hesitations and acknowledging that the work ahead would demand more than just intellect, it would require him to become even more vulnerable in ways he had avoided for too long. As they emerged from the meeting, a mixture of bewilderment and exhilaration coursed through Jack. The air felt electric with potential, while also thick with the lingering dread of uncertainty. He glanced at Sam, whose expression mirrored his own tumultuous mix of hope and apprehension. "Tomorrow, everything could change, right?" Sam asked quietly. Jack nodded, the weight of responsibility resting heavily on him, yet it felt strangely exhilarating. "Yes, but it's only the beginning." What Jack didn't realize as they left the hospital was the deeper personal reckoning that awaited him. The burgeoning desire to create something sustainable would force him to confront the considerable emotional barriers he had long hidden, barriers that could either elevate or cripple this venture. Suddenly, he knew the broader challenges were only beginning. The true tests of character and commitment were just ahead. How far would he go to ensure the safety and wellness of families like Sam's? As they stepped out into the muted glow of streetlights, the weight of that question settled deep within him, unearthing uncertainties he had not yet faced. What if he discovered that being the architect of change meant risking everything he thought he knew about himself? Jack awoke early the next day, the faint sounds of the city filtering through his bedroom window. The relentless hum felt both familiar and foreign, as though every horn, every distant voice, was talking about a concern he now lived with, a worry deeply intertwined with the lives of others. He stumbled into routine, brewing coffee and dressing for another day in the office, yet the gravity of yesterday's conversation hung like a veil around him, overshadowing the mundane. He was committed now, but that commitment drew him into treacherous waters. The prospect of creating a support platform had unraveled a part of himself that felt simultaneously anxious and invigorated. He eyed the business landscape he had navigated for years, the metrics, the presentations, and found the contrast stark against the raw emotions he now faced. As he walked into the corporate office, the usual greetings and small talk struck him as trivial. Faces moved past him, colleagues buried in their routines, unaware of the undercurrents coursing through Jack. Each mundane conversation felt like drops of water in an ocean of desperation he could no longer ignore. It was a peculiar duality. Here he was, Jack Thompson, CEO. Yet beneath that polished exterior thrummed the heart of a man wanting to matter beyond the balance sheet. He set about the day's tasks mechanically, but a sense of urgency gnawed at him. Mid-morning, with his office door closed, he opened a new document titled Support Platform Proposal. Just the name sent adrenaline coursing through him. What would it require? He scrawled notes, functionalities, hospitals to contact, potential development teams. Yet as he wrote, waves of doubt crashed over the enthusiasm. It was impossible to ignore the risk involved. What if he failed? How could he justify neglecting his company's priorities for an uncertain venture? His phone buzzed. It was Sam. "We meeting today?" The message propelled him from his self-imposed paralysis. He quickly replied, confirming a meetup that afternoon. The thought of facing Sam with nothing but half-cooked ideas felt unbearable. He needed a plan, a comprehensive strategy to solve not just the technical aspects, but also an emotional framework to guide this venture, solidify fake hopes, and manage the inevitable disappointments. As he left the office for lunch, a flicker of resolve ignited within him. The day was warmer than before. Sunlight broke through the clouds. This was a tangible problem, one he could approach with the precision of any business move, albeit layered with a more profound emotional weight. Their meeting spot was a small cafe near the hospital, a place where parents had gathered when waiting for news, sharing whispered fears over cardboard cups filled with lukewarm coffee. When Sam arrived, he looked slightly more at ease than yesterday. Hope tempered by fear. Jack recognized it immediately, mirrored in his own heart. "Thanks for coming," Jack began as they sat. "I've been thinking a lot about what we can do." Sam's expression was a mix of anticipation and wariness. "Did you come up with any ideas?" "I did," Jack took a breath. "What if we could take our combined experiences and build a platform? Not just advice, but a real community. Support groups, live chats, a way for parents to connect directly. We can also enlist experts, channels for real-time medical advice, all tied to their specific needs, especially in critical situations." Jack's excitement built with every word, but he noticed Sam's eyes narrowing. "You're talking about a lot of coordination and a lot of moving parts. We need something concrete to start with." "I know," Jack replied, slowing his breath to meet Sam's energy. "That's why we should talk to hospitals first, gauge their interest. We can also reach out to therapists, counselors, people already invested in helping families like ours." As Sam mulled this over, Jack recognized a growing fear simmering in the background. What if Sam didn't see the same vision? Or worse, what if Jack was opening himself up for ridicule in the face of failure? "What are the next steps?" Sam finally asked, the tension shifting as a shared urgency began to fill the space between them. "That's it. Outreach, gather insights, maybe even fund some initial discussions," Jack articulated, feeling the weight of responsibility shift toward proactive measures. "I'll set up meetings with local hospitals, see how they could be allies instead of obstacles." Sam leaned back, a hint of gratitude clouding his features. "I appreciate your commitment, Jack," he said softly. "It's just big." Jack felt the gravity of that statement, how each word echoed the doubts lodged in his own heart. Would he rise to this challenge, or would he falter when the stakes grew ever higher? The thought gripped him. What further sacrifices would he have to make? This was a new beginning, one that exposed his vulnerabilities even as it pushed him toward a broader purpose. The next right step was there, hovering just out of reach. "I need you in this," Jack said. "Whatever happens, we'll figure it out together." As they wrapped up their meeting, Jack's resolve crystallized. Yet it came with an apprehension. The stakes were rising, and each decision rippled wider than he had anticipated. Suddenly, Jack's phone pinged again. A message from the doctor. "We need to meet urgently." His heart thudded against his chest, an anxious pulse reverberating in response to new waves of uncertainty. What could be the intention behind an urgent meeting? Jack and Sam exchanged worried glances, the tension thickening dramatically in an instant. This was just the beginning, but Jack wondered if he was prepared to face the storm brewing ahead. The moment of truth loomed closer than he had ever expected. What awaited him? Jack had barely settled into his chair when he was ushered into the doctor's office. The air felt heavy, as though charged with unspoken truths. He glanced at Sam, who remained at the doorway, his presence a silent anchor, grounding Jack against the encroaching tide of anxiety. "What's going on?" Jack managed to ask as they took their seats, heart hammering in his chest. Dr. Reynolds, a seasoned physician with a reassuring demeanor, looked across the desk at them, his brow slightly furrowed. "Thanks for coming on short notice. I wanted to discuss something crucial regarding your son's treatment." Jack swallowed hard, the room closing in around him. "Is it bad news?" Dr. Reynolds hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Not exactly. There have been some developments, and, frankly, I think it would be beneficial for both of you to consider a more comprehensive support structure." Jack stiffened. The emotional weight of yesterday's hopes and the potential for failure flickered in his mind. Support structure? Like what? The doctor leaned forward, fingers tented. "I'm talking about integrating technological advances into our current supportive care practices for both patients and families navigating difficult health challenges. It's complex, but I sense you're passionate about experience sharing and community support. This is your moment." The doctor's words ignited a flicker of determination within Jack, but insecurity quickly merged with it. Did he have the chops to make a substantial impact in healthcare? At that moment, he realized that he was standing at a precipice, not only for himself, but for families grappling with similar situations. He sought to balance between fear and aspiration. "What you're suggesting is a big undertaking," Sam said, interjecting, "but we're willing to take on a challenge if it can help others like us." Jack nodded in agreement, but felt the swarm of questions flood his mind. Could he genuinely impact lives? His comfort was grounded in the corporate world, where numbers and projections dominated. Was he ready to traverse into a realm laden with emotional intricacies, where tangible outcomes could be elusive? Dr. Reynolds continued, "I know of some local initiatives that have had success, but they often lack the organizational backing. With your business expertise combined with a human touch, I believe we can create something transformative." Realization settled deeper as Jack gazed at Sam, visibly resonating with the doctor's vision. "I have experience in strategy and logistics. I'm ready to learn about the emotional nuances and the needs of families, but I'll need solid backing." Sam's reassurance came like a balm. "We can do this together," he said, echoing Jack's earlier sentiment, but wrapping it in renewed confidence. Jack's heart raced, the urgency palpable as he wrestled with the dual challenge of making this dream a reality while navigating the unfamiliar terrain of compassion-driven business. The emotional stakes had unexpectedly become entwined with his professional aspirations. "So," Jack began, determination saturating his words, "what's the first step? We can start with outreach to those initiatives, gather data, and—" The doctor suddenly interrupted, glancing at the time. "That sounds great, but I want to remind you to maintain your focus on your son. Prioritize your family while navigating this. It's a delicate balance." Jack nodded, fully aware of the challenge ahead. The increasing stakes pressed down on him. He was now a father and a prospective changemaker. Would he be able to manage both roles without sacrificing his family? Leaving Dr. Reynolds' office, Jack felt an overwhelming sense of urgency accompanied by a flicker of excitement. He needed to put thoughts into action, draft that support platform proposal with newfound vigor. Ideas formed in his mind like a chess game unfolding, each move calculated and deliberate. "A quick coffee before diving into research?" Sam proposed, lightening the atmosphere. "Let's do it," Jack agreed, well aware that coffee would serve as fuel for the brainstorm that awaited him. As they walked to the nearby cafe, Jack's thoughts raced, not just about the platform. The deeper question loomed. Could he truly marry the world of corporate success with emotional authenticity? The lines between personal and professional began to blur, each step lighter than the last, but uncertainty lingered. Before they reached the cafe, Jack's phone buzzed again, a message from a hospital contact, However, their casual tone was undercut by the urgency it conveyed. "We need to talk about opportunities for collaboration." Jack felt the pressure mount again. The moment of truth edged closer, but so did his resolve to confront whatever lay ahead. What was the promise this new venture held, and could he truly hold his family close while shaping a better future for others? Each decision would echo beyond the confines of business, and Jack wondered, as they pushed through the cafe door, what sacrifices he might have to make to keep everything intact. As they settled into a small booth at the bustling cafe, Jack pored over his thoughts, focusing on the table rather than Sam's encouraging smile. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped them, grounding him even amidst the chaos swirling in his mind. He could almost feel the stakes rising, pulsing in time with the latte machine that hissed and whirred behind the counter. "How are you feeling about everything?" Sam asked, breaking the silence. Jack took a deep breath, the moment recalling the pressure he felt in Dr. Reynolds' office. "It's like stepping into a void. I want to help. No, I need to help, but it feels like I'm navigating a labyrinth." "You're not alone in this. We're a team," Sam replied firmly, leaning forward. "Start small. Let's focus on what you can do today to make a difference. What's your gut telling you?" Reflecting on Sam's words, Jack began mapping out a strategy in his mind. "I think we should start by connecting with those initiatives. Learning from others who've succeeded could give us a framework. Maybe we could even connect directly with families, find out what they truly need." "That sounds solid," Sam nodded, his enthusiasm contagious. But Jack's doubts shadowed him, reminding him of the corporate metrics he was used to measuring success by. "But how do we know what metrics matter here? Success isn't going to be just numbers." "Exactly," Sam agreed. "It's about impacting lives, making their journey a bit easier. You'll need to adjust your thinking." Jack gripped his coffee cup, feeling its warmth seep through to his resolve. "I suppose it's about empathy rather than efficiency. I have to listen and adapt in real time." As they chatted, Jack felt himself flooded with ideas. Questions began to take shape, revealing a connection to the emotional fabric woven through healthcare. What identifiers would lead him to understand the diverse experiences of families in crisis? What narratives could guide him? Suddenly, Jack recalled a project back in the corporate world where he had studied customer engagement. It struck him. If they could transform corporate metrics into a tool for understanding these families' journeys, it could spark a bridge between his corporate experience and the emotional undercurrents of healthcare. "Gathering stories would be vital," Jack said, his voice building. "We could develop a platform that not only connects resources, but also allows families to share their experiences. Their voices are central to what we're trying to build." Sam's eyes lit up, realizing the depth of Jack's revelation. "Exactly, and the stories will guide us in shaping the platform's focal points. We can create a narrative that resonates and connects." "But it's not just a project for us. It becomes their story too," Jack replied with growing intensity, caught in the web of possibilities. Seeing Jack's passion ignite, Sam placed his hand on Jack's, an act of solidarity. "You're doing this for a reason. Remember your motivation." Jack knew it dwelled deep within him, an unyielded desire to create change, to alleviate the burdens of families facing health crises. Yet doubt intertwined with determination. Could he navigate the vast emotional landscapes that lay before him? "Let's set up some meetings," Jack said, focusing on the action. "Once we have some insights, we can start developing concepts. I'll pull data from local initiatives and potential tech collaborations too." "But don't forget your son needs you," Sam cautioned, even as excitement bubbled in both of them over the potential impact. "Prioritizing will be essential." Jack nodded, but a flicker of anxiety darted through him. Prioritizing meant making choices, a juggling act between familial obligations and his professional aspirations. What if he couldn't manage both? What if one faltered? As they finished their coffees, Jack felt the weight of his commitments intensify. The call to action loomed large, and while he was passionate about the path ahead, he was equally terrified of the choices it would demand. Every decision felt like a tightrope walk, balancing fear with the drive to create real change. With resolve building within him, he stood. "Let's get rolling," he said, determination sharpening his tone. "There's no sense in delaying this." But just as they prepared to leave, his phone buzzed again, this time a notification from the same hospital contact. "We need to meet ASAP. You're going to want to hear this." Jack's breath hitched. What awaited him on the other side of that meeting? Time was ticking, and clarity was essential. In the depths of uncertainty lay a crucial turning point. Would he be ready to face the truths that awaited him? "Let's set up some meetings," Jack said, focusing on the action. "Once we have some insights, we can start developing concepts. I'll pull data from local initiatives and potential tech collaborations too." "But don't forget your son needs you," Sam cautioned, even as excitement bubbled in both of them over the potential impact. "Prioritizing will be essential." Jack nodded, but a flicker of anxiety darted through him. Prioritizing meant making choices, a juggling act between familial obligations and his professional aspirations. What if he couldn't manage both? What if one faltered? As they finished their coffees, Jack felt the weight of his commitments intensify. The call to action loomed large, and while he was passionate about the path ahead, he was equally terrified of the choices it would demand. Every decision felt like a tightrope walk, balancing fear with the drive to create real change. With resolve building within him, he stood. "Let's get rolling," he said, determination sharpening his tone. "There's no sense in delaying this." But just as they prepared to leave, his phone buzzed again, this time a notification from the same hospital contact. "We need to meet ASAP. You're going to want to hear this." Jack's breath hitched. What awaited him on the other side of that meeting? Time was ticking, and clarity was essential. In the depths of uncertainty lay a crucial turning point. Would he be ready to face the truths that awaited him? As they stepped outside into the cool air, Jack knew he was on the verge of something significant, but he questioned if he could handle the weight that came along with it. The moment Jack stepped out of the cafe, the city seemed to hum with an electric energy, a stark contrast to the static dread coiling in his stomach. He flicked a glance at his phone. It was a stark reminder of how fast everything was moving. A moment ago, he was discussing lofty ideas with Sam, yet now he faced a sudden urgency that felt all-consuming. What awaited him in that meeting? Was it another burden, or the key to clarity he desperately needed? They walked in silence toward the hospital, each step quickening his heartbeat. Jack's mind raced, dissecting everything he had learned so far, his attention alternating between thoughts of potential success and the weight of failure. The stories of families needing help replayed in his mind, each one a call to action, pushing him forward, even as his doubts followed closely behind. "Remember to breathe, man." Sam's voice broke through Jack's turbulent thoughts as they approached the hospital entrance. "Easy for you to say," Jack murmured, shoving his hands into his pockets, trying to ground himself. They rode the dusty elevator to the third floor, the air inside heavy with anticipation and the faint scent of antiseptic. Jack's mind flashed back to his early days in the corporate world, fueled by adrenaline but lacking true purpose. This felt different. Each decision now echoed not just in boardrooms, but in the very lives of people. As they stepped into the conference room, Jack surveyed the sleek, sterile environment. Glass panels divided the space, softening the harshness of fluorescent lights. There was no raucous laughter here, just a few muted conversations and serious faces. He took a seat, straining to read the mood. The door swung open, and Dr. Reynolds entered, her expression grave. "Thank you for coming on short notice," she began, pacing before them. "We've encountered something significant that aligns with your vision." Jack leaned forward, heart racing. "What is it?" "Recent feedback from families has indicated a consistent gap in transparent communication, something you mentioned in our last discussion. We're looking to improve it, and I believe your professional insight could truly shape our approach." Jack's pulse quickened. This was it, an opening that could lead to impactful change. Yet, along with excitement, fear bubbled up anew. How could he best leverage his skills to truly communicate with these families? Could he navigate their emotional landscapes without losing sight of the analytical focus he had always relied upon? "That's powerful," Jack replied, tapping into his experience. "We need a way to engage families effectively, to show them they are heard and understood. We should create something that feels responsive, not just reactive." Dr. Reynolds nodded, clearly impressed. "Exactly. We want to involve families in the development process, but we need a framework first." As Jack spoke, an inkling of strength surged through him. The labyrinth he felt trapped in started shifting. Perhaps it was time to take ownership of his narrative, to channel the energy he felt in corporate settings toward this new realm. Even as excitement bubbled to the surface, Jack caught himself thinking of his son. Feeling his absence filled him with guilt. Was he sacrificing family time for work once again? He questioned if he could balance this commitment alongside his role as a father. Leaving the meeting, Jack felt the discussions morphing in his mind, expanding into 1,000 paths. Each choice could lead to powerful outcomes, but who would he leave behind to succeed? "Ready?" Sam asked, bringing him back. Jack hesitated, wrestling with diverging thoughts. "Yeah, just thinking about what we can achieve." But another notification reverberated from his phone. A message from the contact again. "We need to talk. Your son's situation is changing." The world spun as dread seeped through the cracks that had momentarily closed. The volatile interplay of his professional ambitions and personal fears clawed at him. Would the ground beneath him shift even more? Jack glanced at Sam, uncertainty solidifying into urgency. "Let's go. I need to know what's happening." As they hurried away from the hospital, Jack realized he stood at a crucible. Every decision before him felt like a weight that could either forge his destiny or fracture it altogether. Would he find the resolve to face what lay ahead, or would he crumble under the pressure of what truly mattered? Jack stepped out of the hospital's rigid environment, the weight of urgency squeezing his chest. Every second counted as he navigated the crowded hallway towards the exit, his mind torn between the strategy he had begun to formulate for the hospital and the looming crisis concerning his son. He pulled out his phone, the message blinking ominously. "We need to talk. Your son's situation is changing." The words seeped into his thoughts like ink spreading on paper. What could it mean? Had something drastic happened? When had his life become an exhausting balance between ambition and anxiety? As he reached the street, Jack felt the spent energy of the meeting draining from him. The excitement of potential change would have to wait. His priority was his son. Why had he allowed himself to focus on work? Guilt twisted deep in his stomach as he remembered his son's face, the wide eyes that had once glimmered with trust. "Jack?" Sam's voice broke his train of thought. "You okay?" Not really. Jack glanced up, anxiety etched on his features. "I got a message about my son." The corners of Sam's mouth tightened, a brief reflection of concern. "What do we know?" Jack could barely focus on the question. Nothing specific, just that things are changing. He hesitated, replaying his recent encounter with Dr. Reynolds in his mind. It had felt empowering to be seen as a catalyst for change, and yet here he was, sidelined by personal matters. I'm torn, Sam. I'm trying to build something for families here, but what about my own?" Sam watched him closely. "You need to prioritize yourself and your family. That's the only way the work you do can mean something." Yet each piece of professional insight Jack had gained felt hollow as he stood on the precipice of personal turmoil. He had to make a choice, and, like the meeting with Dr. Reynolds, he needed a framework, a strategy, not just for the hospital, but for his own emotions, hardened by distance from his son. Determined, Jack gripped his phone, intending to text back, but then a thought struck. What if he used his professional skills to communicate with his son instead? What had he learned about rapport that could bridge this gap? The idea sparked, a tiny flicker of hope illuminating his entangled thoughts. "Hey," he began, stopping as an idea crystallized. "What if I try to communicate with him in a way he understands? What if I treated it like an engagement process?" Sam nodded. "You mean like a plan?" "Exactly. I could break it down, listen to his needs, validate his feelings, involve him in decisions that affect him. Maybe we could have family meetings." Sam smiled. "That sounds good. Kids like to feel included." As they walked towards Sam's car, Jack felt a new determination bubbling up within him. The meetings at the hospital, though vital, paled in comparison to the conversation he needed to have with his son. He was not just a professional or a father. He was both, and perhaps it was time to weave those identities together. "Let's do it," he said to Sam, newfound clarity guiding his voice. "I'll reach out. I can't let this opportunity slip away." When they reached the car, Jack settled in, the resolve of his mission beginning to crystallize. Yet a gnawing fear still lingered. What if his professional commitments threatened to overpower his role as a father? While driving, Jack caught a glimpse of a father with his child in the park, their joy infectious yet distant. The weight of that scene pressed on him, the final push to act. He didn't want to be two separate individuals living parallel lives. He wanted to bridge the gap. His heart pounded as he wrestled with another choice. He could manage both spheres, but only if he let go of the fear of failure in either. If the hospital could improve communication through his skills, so could he at home. As he pulled out his phone, ready to type, a message pinged again, this time from the hospital group chat. "Important meeting, immediate changes to patient communication strategy." Jack paused, uncertainty spiraling back in. Would he abandon his son once more? The dichotomy of his world crashed against him. He needed to find a way to integrate everything his life demanded of him. The moment of truth hung in the balance. The intersection of his professional path and the realities of fatherhood was here, and he had to navigate it. What direction would he choose? A decision point loomed ahead, and Jack could sense that everything was about to unfold. He needed to face his fears and embrace the challenge. Would he rise to the occasion or be drawn under once again? The stakes had never felt higher. Jack Thompson stood beneath the vast swath of early morning sky, his breath coming in steady puffs as the weight of the previous hours settled heavily on his shoulders. He faced the stark exterior of the hospital, now sharper in focus than ever before. Yesterday had revealed a labyrinth that felt endlessly intricate, but it was time to navigate through both his personal anguish and his burgeoning vision for change. He entered the hospital with a firm resolve, believing he could bring to bear his corporate skills on the real-life struggles haunting Sam and families like his own. His heart raced not just from concern over his son, but from an electrifying realization that he was capable of blending his professional expertise with a genuine human touch. He was ready to transform lives beyond the polished world of tech meetings. As he approached the pediatric ward, Jack felt the familiar thrum of anxiety. But this time it was different. Self-assurance coursed through him. He wasn't just Jack Thompson, the CEO, anymore. He was now a promise of support. Finding Sam outside the room, he noted the man's weary expression. Yet there was a flicker of hope in his demeanor, reborn in their shared mission. "We need to talk," Jack said, urgency blurring the lines between professionalism and camaraderie. A subtle nod from Sam showed his understanding. "About my son?" "Exactly. but more about what we can do moving forward, together. Jack saw the spark of recognition light in Sam's eyes. This was it. They were both strong men fighting for a future worth having. They stepped into the room, the air thick with anticipation and vulnerability. Jack braced himself, vision set on creating a safe space to have an open dialogue. His mind replayed the countless business metrics, but now transported skillfully to a personal framework: empathy, support, and actionable strategies. He wanted every parent's voice heard, including Sam's. "Sam," Jack started softly, "I know things are hard right now. I want to explore how we can support you and those like us. We should gather insights and build a support system that not only focuses on resources, but also on connecting families, engaging them so they feel seen and heard." Sam's brow unfurrowed slightly. "You mean creating a platform?" "Yes, a community where sharing experiences and connecting becomes just as valid as resources," Jack explained, excitement bubbling. "We can collaborate for immediate needs and long-term strategies. This is our shot to do something that truly matters." The sincerity in Jack's voice seemed to ignite something in Sam. "You really believe this could work?" "Not just believe," Jack added earnestly. "I know it can work because it stems from a place of real understanding. We aren't just data points. We're families navigating pain. We all have a story, and those stories will guide us." As they strategized, a feeling of clarity washed over Jack. This was more than just a path to professional success. It was healing. By sharing, they would not only support families like Sam's, but also create a legacy of empathy and human connection. "Let's set up meetings with the hospital administrators," Sam suggested, practical yet enthusiastic. "We have to position this initiative correctly." Jack grinned, his old instincts igniting. "Absolutely. And let's also plan to meet with families to gauge what they deem essential. We can transform our ideas into actionable plans." They spent the next few hours drafting an approach and building outlines that would pave the way for a support network. In that moment, Jack felt empowered. He was no longer suffocated by the culture of ambition that had once driven him. This clarity marked the culmination of his journey, his metamorphosis from a corporate shark to a compassionate leader striving to effect change. They left the hospital, a shared purpose radiating between them, a bond that had developed through their mutual struggles. Jack glanced at his phone, heart skipping as he read another message waiting there. The hospital would arrange a meeting with key stakeholders to discuss their proposed platform. Relief surged through him. "Incredible," Jack murmured, excitement swelling into a smile. "What's next for you?" Sam asked. Jack exhaled deeply. The pressure of his execution weighed against the backdrop of his personal life. "I honestly have to prioritize my son first. I need to ensure he knows he matters to me, that the balance I'm carving out for others must also include him." "You're doing the right thing," Sam replied warmly, pride glimmering in his voice. "Remember that your commitment gives you strength." Arriving at home later, Jack found his son sprawled on the living room floor with toys scattered around him. The innocence of childhood, a striking contrast against the backdrop of uncertainty they faced. He kneeled to meet his son's gaze. "Hey, buddy, how are you doing?" His son beamed, presenting a vibrant painting he had created. Sparks of warmth ignited in Jack's heart. This was the anchor he had needed. "Wow, that's amazing! I'm so proud of what you're doing. Can I show this to everyone? You could teach them how to express themselves too." "Can I come too?" his son asked, eyes wide, full of hope. Jack's heart swelled with pride and realization. Yes, we'll do this together. In that moment, Jack understood. His journey of professional ambition and personal connection had not only forged a new beginning in his once segregated lives, but had also unlocked a version of himself that stood unwavering and resolute. The vibrant colors of his son's painting shimmered like visions for their future. Together, they would change lives and create ripples of hope. Jack lifted his son into his arms, an embrace of warmth that whispered of unconditional love. He would accomplish this, find that delicate balance of ambition merged with heart, and together with Sam, they would start a movement that would forge deeper bonds and empower families. Jack had crossed a boundary. He stood transformed, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, embracing the profound interplay of responsibility and fulfillment by becoming a beacon of change. Now, as always, there was only one thing left to do: ignite that fire within and step forward. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second to share.